in grade four. In grade four, because he had to go to the farm and farm things, he eventually went back to school. He took years of university in 1 year and then eventually became a PhD. So he was a big fan of education. My mother, less so. Even after I got my first position as a faculty member in the US, she would send me letters with clippings in them. So she'd send, Google that. All you young people, Google what a fucking letter is. You put a stamp on it. So then you open it up, and in it were little advertisements from matchboxes and cut out from magazines. Learn vacuum repair. Get a job fixing cars. She said, Kenny, sooner or later they're going to realize that being a university professor isn't a real job. And so you should have something to fall back on. So that was good. In university, I just took general courses and see what happens. And then life should be downhill. It should be easy. You should do what's easiest and best for you. It should smell slightly of flowers, not of poo. And so what I did was I took the courses that were easiest for me. They just held courses in high energy physics, and then they also held courses in astronomy. So screw physics. So if you're good at something, you're unusual. If something is easy for you and is going really, really great, then do more of it. Don't listen to people who say, oh no, you've got to take the hard courses, you've got to learn. No. The people that told you you'll never have to know calculus when you were in grade 3 were right. We got people for that. We got guys for that. So take easy things that you like. You will do well, and then you'll float above people who are suffering. I think I was also lucky. I would advise luck. I would advise being born male, white in the 1950s to rich Canadians as well. And in case some of you have choices or choices with your children, I think Shannon brought her children back so they could really be Canadian. And in the era of Trump, this is probably a really good decision. Luck comes from hard work, so I always worked hard, but it was never really work. You just do what you do, and then things happened. I had some bad luck in the beginning. As a starting PhD student, my supervisor gave my project away after it worked. So it was a terrible project. It was just horrible. How long ago was this? We didn't know the sequence of histones. And histones were too long to sequence because there was too many arginines. I figured out how to sequence histone 3. It's an important histone. My supervisor came, took my notebook, gave it to his favorite PhD student, and told me I better find another project. Instead, I found another lab. So when you have lemons, you sometimes can't make them into lemonades. You just got to walk away, and don't worry about walking away. This does not go on your permanent record. Remember the people in grade 4 that said, this fight, Kenny, was going to go on your permanent record? It didn't. It just didn't. Although my mother, to the end of her days, kept my report card from grade 1, and all it said was, Kenny does not play well with others. And she kept it. She did not like me. If you guys are in the right field, you'll know it. If you guys follow your bliss and work hard, it's going to work really, really well. There's always a place for the top 10%. There just is. There's no place for working hard, hating what you do, and then facing a lifetime of it. If I knew my life was going to be so long, I would have taken better care of myself. I have no damn knees. I've had my shoulders operated on. So be kind to yourself, not to others. What happened was I got job after job and worked hard and was successful and lucky. So I went to the United States right from my PhD. My PhD was only 2 years long, and it came from my bachelor's. So from my bachelor's, I got a PhD. And it was in the olden days. I did so little for my PhD that my own students are incredibly bitter that they have to work so hard. Those 2 years were described by my supervisor at UBC as the longest 2 years of his life. So then I got grants, and I know that's hard for you guys. I know you have to write large numbers of grants in order to get some. You just got to keep doing it. Now, in the year of Trump, that they closed NIH and closed NOAA, it will be a little more difficult. But Shannon will tell you this, it's really easy to get grants in Canada. We fund 70% of grants from our basic grant agency, and everybody writes them. Everybody that can type with two fingers on a Selectric gets a grant, and that's why we're not going to be your 51st state, because you people suck. Uh, and once you do that, find good colleagues. And the way you find good colleagues is in the beginning luck, but then you have to identify them. It's just like going out late at night in a bad part of town and thinking everybody that asks you, want some hash, is a good person. Unlikely not. So one of my first mentors in the business, who wasn't my supervisor, was a guy I had never met, knew nothing about, and worked on Arctic insects. His name is John Boust. He's pretending to be at this meeting, but only to monitor me so he can turn me into the Texas authorities. And he was kind. I drove across the country. All of my stuff fit in a car. So after my PhD, everything fit in my car, including my future wife and her loom. I should have known. She should just be a weird memory of a girl with a loom. Went and visited Boust in upstate New York, where he had fled from Texas. And he told me all about it. He said, "Oh, these are the animals." And he showed me them. They're animals that live on galls. And by the way, he had just published a paper with a guy who froze some frogs in his trunk. And frogs also freeze. So everything was laid out for me. And John was interested in his own things. You don't get a colleague that wants to do exactly the same thing as you, exactly the same. You get a colleague that's the zoologist to your biochemists. That's the physiologist to your geneticist. And it worked out really well. The grants came, and John and I published joint papers, and everything was fine because him I chose and the rest I did not. It is as vital to choose good colleagues who are kind and who will publish with you and won't just steal anything as it is a significant other. I also did well in my significant other. She and I have worked together as Storey and Storey forever. Uh, so she came into the lab and did research work. And then we went home and we wrote up research work and we took care of children. And then we went up to the lab again and put the children in cribs. There was cribs set up in the lab and they just plopped children in. It turns out that graduate students are really, really good at watching children, so long as you have enough of them. If you trust one of them, your children will die. But as they wandered by, some of them would notice them choking or not having anything to drink or whatever. And we still know students from that era. I've graduated over 100 PhD students, and a lot of them have healthcare knowledge. Then what you do is do what's best for you, and it'll always work out. I unfortunately moved from an excellent university, from one of the best universities on earth, to a shithole. I worked at a horrible, grotesque 10th rate university. In fact, Peter Hachowska was so angry at me when I came here. He wrote me a letter calling it a 10th rate shithole. So I'm still using his words, even though he's dead now. So I work at a terrible university, but you can make do. You can find good students. We found Shannon wandering in the hallway. I think she was trying to avoid a boyfriend she didn't want to dump. I think that was it. And then we helped her dump that. And then on the way down in the elevator, she found a new boyfriend. Jeez, all in one big. Oh, and she did. And she's married to him. So everything will work out if you work hard. I went and visited, then I visited Boris Rubinsky. who should be here, but you never know where Boris is. It's very mysterious. He's one of those people with many, many passports who, do you remember Anastasia? She had a Russian passport and an Israeli passport and then a Canadian passport, and then she disappeared to a job in Denmark. Anyway, Boris Rubinsky was wonderful. His graduate student was somebody who was an engineer, just an engineer, just as thick as two short planks. Just tap him on the head. They worked on metal. I swear they drilled holes in metal. But this guy was a genius. And once he talked about cryobiology, once he sat with us, he's now all of your colleagues. He's a big star in ATP bio. You never know what you're going to find. Life is like a box of chocolates, and you just have to bite a couple and ignore the ones with nougat in them. Nobody likes that. Good colleagues stay with you and work with you. A number of them are way too famous for me now, but, well, okay, a number of my students are way too famous for me now. Tessier. And if you work hard, everything will work out. And I know it doesn't seem like that. My own daughter, as a graduate student, as a PhD student, was horrified. She worked hard and nobody else worked, and everybody was getting ahead but her. It didn't happen. She was a big star. She got big scholarships. She got a big job. She's now way more famous than I. She calls me a Dr. Storey, not the Dr. Storey. Ah, thankless little trolls. My other daughter gave me a piece of paper for Christmas once, and she said, good for unlimited hugs. And then she put a little asterisk, and then at the asterisk on the sheet it said, where unlimited is three, Kate is not made of hugs. Oh, God. They were just terrible. They were just thankless. If you expect your students to support you, well, your children won't. That's just it. I think scientists have a lot of common enemies. We have terrible management at Carleton. The reason that an excellent university is excellent is there's excellent faculty and then there's excellent management. And as soon as you find faculty trying as hard as they can, trying to do everything right, and you find management that are evil and bitter and stupid, then you get a disjoint in your life. And if you can't stand it, if you can't fix it, you got to move on. Lots of scientists now are moving in mid-career, but you've got to be careful of that. There's a lot of downtime. And then that new job that you thought was wonderful, what they wrote down was simply another frickin' lie by an associate assistant dean of evil doing. There's an actual site on the internet called Ass Deans, ASS dot deans. It's associate deans, and they're terrible. They're terrible everywhere. Ugh. So there's some of you who will be young and are going to go through these experiences in times we don't know at all. Some of you are old. John Boust's picture is a dog, but it really should be a pterodactyl. That's how old John is. And our history isn't yours. That is, when we tell you about history in specifics, it just doesn't matter. Your history, you're living now. And so long as you work hard today and publish a paper and keep up with the literature and do your teaching, because that's what they pay you for, you're going to be okay. That's it. That's the general things. Not everybody will be a Tessier, of course. Sonoji, do you remember Sonoji?
I do, yes.
Yeah, she's going to get a tier 2 chair
That's amazing. I'm so excited
in
to hear
in
that.
Canada. Well, it's in Winnipeg. It's in my wife's city, so it's a shallow and weedy gene pool. We have some cities that we swear came up from Alabama, just walked up, and then we found them lying on the prairies like idiots. We're not sure where they come from.
So,
Uh, Bill Wilmore's doing well. Kyle's doing well. Unfortunately, a lot of students are having a good time. It's better to have a supervisor that is a lion rather than have a supervisor that is a bunny. But so long as you publish, so long as you produce. So,
so
Carl, Carleton University. It's a university. No, it isn't. You think of Carleton University as a really good university college somewhere in one of those flat, stupid states, Minnesota. When Shannon applied for Harvard, they actually said, "What's a Carleton?" And I said, "Mehmet, I'm on the phone. You will hire Shannon now. Pay her to go down. No more guff from you." And it's all fine. So,
Well, can I pick up on one of those threads a little bit, Ken? In your story, as you're telling your story, it seems like a lot of these sort of defining moments in your career were related to either a great mentor or a bad mentor. So can you talk through a little bit more, I guess, the importance of good mentorship, both in your career path, but sort of how you've placed a high value on mentorship in your lab and with your students?
no. But there's a good reason for that. A great mentor for me was a terrible mentor for everyone else in his lab. So I went to a lab after leaving the guy that stole all my data and went to a lab where it was just chaos. Nobody knew anything. They didn't know what an enzyme was. They had no idea what biochemistry is. They poked seals with a stick. My supervisor at UBC saw me first time when I brought him a paper that I had done completely by myself after I got a dead dolphin from the Vancouver Aquarium. It's harder to sneak those out in your car than you think because they're pretty big. And he looked at it and said, "Storey, this is one run-on sentence." That's it. So, no, he was a terrible supervisor for everyone else in the lab, and they disappeared. He said, "Ken, if I hold their hands now, they're never going to make it." It was called a sink or swim lab. If you're a sink or swim person, that's the best thing for you, because the guy never annoyed me. He never talked to me. I saw him next when he had a computer printout of money. So he had money in the lab, and he was flipping through it, and he said, "Storey, you've spent more money now on research than your scholarship brought me." So I had a scholarship that actually paid him for my own research. And he was bitter that I had spent an extra dollar. And I said, "But Peter, the papers." And he went, "Arr, arr, 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 arr," and went back. I was a hands-on supervisor instead. So what I did was I realized that not everybody can pull themselves up by the bootstraps. Not everybody knows all the answers to all things. We did much more hand-holding. We did much more educational outreach. We did more than that. So that's all I learned. All I learned from Peter was he was a great supervisor for me. I would have been a shit supervisor for me. I would have annoyed myself one day and then just attacked me with a club. So you never know what you get until you see how it interacts with you. You might have thought our lab was good, but you know there was internal rivalries and problems within the students. It was too big. It was too complex. It was too stupid. And everybody that comes into a lab is not a good person. Everybody that comes in is not Mahatma Gandhi. Most of them are J.D. Vance. So what you have to do, keep your finger on the pulse, but don't throttle your people like Bart Simpson is throttled on The Simpsons. Not everybody is the same for everybody. My old supervisor that stole all my data turned out we were at meetings together and he would say nice things about me and he would say, "Oh, we should have kept you in the lab." Because the guy he stole the data for was a schlub. He got a PhD and never had a single idea because he had stolen mine. In the long run, everything will work out if you get something optimal. So, Shannon, you are lucky that you felt that. Carleton, you were an undergraduate and it looked like you were at a teaching college. It looked like you were going to get a job like everybody else with a paper hat. And then you found something that worked for you It didn't work for everyone, but it worked for you and most of the others. And then you went to a job where you also have a very busy supervisor who only cares that you benefit him. It works like a charm. We're very easy. Professors are very easy. Do you have papers for me? Will I get a nature communication? Will I get an even bigger grant? Shannon, don't you want your own grant? Bracket, so you can stop taking money from mine? Yeah, it looks like mentoring. It actually is just making certain that good people stay around you, but don't get in your way.
No, but I think it's a really important point because when I was in my undergrad, I had done, some research experiences in my undergrad, but never really I guess found my groove in research. And so I thought, okay, I haven't, research isn't for me. Maybe I'll go find some other job. And then, just by chance came across Ken's lab. And I think, like you said, just found the right fit that worked for me. And then that's sort of really in my PhD where I found my passion for science. So I think, on that topic in terms of finding a mentor, I think you hit it. It's just there are different mentors for different people, and finding that one that works for you is important.
Life is like teenage slasher movies. You're walking around, you're drinking, you're thinking of having sex with your friends, and then you pass by a house. That house is dark. It's making noises. There's blood coming out of the fucking windows. Don't go into that house, split up, and have sex in the different rooms. It's simple. If something looks good to you, go in there. And then if it doesn't work out, just and move back. It isn't one shot. It isn't, if this doesn't work for you, it's going to be awful. No, it isn't. Students from my lab more recently have come to Shannon because Shannon's excellent. They know her and they know the method. They know the method. The A lot of labs, the beatings will continue until your morale improves, but that doesn't work. So we had a student, Kira Cowan, who's now the head of big time research at Merck and at Bayer. She's richer than God. She was a model. She was an actual model. So was Tom Churchill, strangely enough. But she was a model, and then she worked as a PhD. She was really good. She was always going to be good. She became a prof at UC, University of California at San Francisco. And she once looked up and said, Ken, yelling at me doesn't work for me. And so I had to stop yelling at her. Jesus! But I had 17 other students, so the yelling continued. We had twins, two female sisters named Gerbers, and they came into graduate school and they were god awful. They were just god awful, but they were cheerleaders for the Carleton basketball team, who's won the 14 years in a row. They're both medical doctors now, God help me, and I can't get sick in my own city. I have so many students who are MDs who've been in my lab and want to stab me with needles that I have to go to little towns around here and hope I can find a faith healer. You never know what you're going. They had a great time, but everyone else would come up to me and say, "Get rid of the Gerbers. This is so awful." They were terrible.
So I guess another thing that struck me in your conversation as you're going through your career, is sort of not just the mentorship that sort of shaped your career, but also the collaborations and the people that you met along the way. And I also, when I was looking at your CV, sort of reflecting on how extensive your network is in terms of collaboration. Can you talk us through your approach to collaboration and why you think that's important, especially now in the type of science and in the sort of outset for cryobiology in general?
Yeah, I think there's a difference in me early and in late. In my early career, I did things that were very normal. You would all understand what I did and why I did them. I wanted to be a lone gunman on a horse. That's what Peter Hochachka taught us. He said, you don't collaborate, people will just take your ideas. And so early on, I would get with equal collaborators. We do our own thing. It's called parallel play with children. So if you have two little children, they're in a pile of toys, and you think they're sharing those toys, you're deluded. Just move one of the toys further away from one child and closer to another. It's chaos. They would kill each other instantly. So parallel play was good. Then later on, I began to have to be a mentor myself. So I had to write grants for other people that didn't know how to write grants. It just seems crazy. I have written the same grant, exactly the same, since 1982. I just changed the name of the animal. Oh, they've discovered a new histone variation. What is it? God. And so later on, I'm writing grants with groups of people, and they have their own grad students, their own postdocs. I don't have to live in my own building. So these days, you can live in multiple buildings. There's Minnesota and New York. There's Ottawa and China and Ottawa and Australia and Ottawa. So I've become a bit of a Borg, a bit of a Borg. So you guys are too young to think of this. They come from Star Trek. They're called a hive mind. They fly around in big square spaceships. They're run by one brain that runs them all, but then they all do all the parts of all the ships. They're infinitely powerful. They will assimilate everything. You will be assimilated, and that's just how it goes. So I assimilate other things. I use the bare bones of my knowledge. I've never taken a biology course, ever. And I don't like biology. So that sort of thing. Early on, be sure you find collaborators that help you, that don't do your stuff, but will work with you. As soon as they begin to become parasitic, you've got to separate yourself because everybody tries it on. Everybody, everybody, everybody. And then later on, you can join in much bigger webs of evil. I mean, think of your own Mehmet Toner. Hopefully he's not here today. Uh, Webs of evil, honest to God. I think I'll get a grant in cryobiology. Is your name Toner? No. Then you won't. Then you simply won't. He's built himself up through good works. He's built himself up through enslaving everyone in his Borg. He's unassailable, except if you yell at him on the phone. And I think you could take him aback then. Try to grow organically, try to grow positively. Try to have students and colleagues that have helped you and will help you, and then that help others. I know for a fact that Shannon's lab is run honestly and wonderfully, even though all the students of her era were not all honest and wonderful, crazed students. So I think it's common sense. I honestly think it's common sense. When you drive into a place to get your car fixed, just assay what's on the ground, what's wrong with this place, and why is there shooting out the back? So it's not that hard. Uh,
Um, it,
John is actually moving. John has been a supervisor. And wait a second, it's the wrong John Boust. You guys, it's the young John Boust. Oh, that's the guy. Wait, this is weird because they're both named John. This young John Boust that you see here, I have seen naked many times. He was 2. He would run through a room, quite naked. Then he would pee on the rug. Then he would run out. Don't worry about collaboration, Sue. This guy is not all right. I don't know if he still does it, but it's weird. Sorry, I thought you were the John Boust, not a baby John Boust. And they have a company. The other thing is Americans are entrepreneurs. They really work a lot harder. They try a lot more things. Canadians are lazy. We wait for the government to do it. And you can tell we're lazy because we haven't developed any place to sell our stuff except the States. It was just easy. Sell it to those idiots in the States and they'll pay you lots of money. So we never developed other markets. We never imported from anyone else. We just thought, hey, there's a bunch of dumb guys to our south. Let's find ones with drawls and steal from them. And Trump caught us.
um,
But
So if other, I don't know, John, if you want to make a comment, but if others have any questions, please, we only have about 9 minutes left and we will end promptly at the hour. So if you have any questions, please feel free to raise up your hand and we can invite you to unmute and we can ask some questions. I have some more, so I will continue. One of the other things that I noted in your oversight of your career was the importance of family in that. So can you talk through what it was like having a family as you moved through the different career stages and sort of how you managed work-life balance? And I'm assuming that's quite a big question because that will have changed as a function of the different responsibilities in your life, but in particular as it pertains to your children.
No, it didn't. Here's what you do. You find the correct significant other, one who is easily led, will take guff endlessly, and then will do things that seem to be her advantage in the short term, but are not in the long term. So enslave your wife is number one. My career, you could take all my papers and divide them by two because there was two of us. There was two of us working all the time. We worked all day, every day. Then we went home. Then we worked then. There was no work-life balance. Children would crawl across my keyboard and I would fling them over my shoulder and they would go, "Whee," and mommy would catch them. Jan also did all the finances. God, the life is so complicated. There's emails from banks and money and investments and finances. She did everything like that. I would just appear if I had to. So we have what's called a lion marriage, Lion. In a pride of lions, the female lions do everything. They take care of the children are annoying. They go out on hunts. They do everything, every single thing. And then they kill something meaty, and then they stand and wait for the male lion. The male lion gets up from under a tree and eats first. So that's what I'd suggest. Any of you have that. And the reason there's a lion and a lion marriage is that when there's rhinos in the area and hyenas, yeah, the big lion has to get up. Other people have worked with their significant other. The Bousts have a company, and that includes husbands and wives. We've had series of people that are students that have been husbands and wives, and our university tends to hire husband and wife pairs. There have been a number of divorces and illegitimate children from that, but that just adds to the excitement of being on a small campus. Oh, and we're talking about Shelley and Owen, aren't we?
I know what you were talking about. We didn't need to say the names.
Oh, sorry! Not Shelley and not Owen. Oh, wait, both.
So,
It doesn't always work out. For me, it was wonderful because I got to work with Jan all the time. Jan's wonderful. For Jan, it was a living hell, but she couldn't find a way out of it. So, is that my fault? Oh.
So I guess the moral of the story is find yourself really good partnerships in your life, whether that be through marriage, collaboration, or mentorship, that will help
Yes.
you get through in a positive.
Briefly, all of our students are from the Middle East, where you can have multiple wives. So a number of them, I would ask, why don't you have multiple wives? And Tariq and others would say, multiple wives mean multiple mother-in-laws. So we fixed that.
Okay. One more question to sort of I guess wrap it up. And it's sort of more of a forward-thinking question. In thinking about, how far we've come in the field of cryobiology, what are your hopes for the future in the field? And and maybe also what are some of the key challenges that we need to overcome to take cryobiology to the sort of next level?
Cryobiology is an idea. It's a thing. If you look for jobs between now and when hell freezes over at universities, They don't hire cryobiologists as such. They hire different kinds of people they know that actually work on low temperature organisms or low temperature animals. The future of cryobiology is necessitated by funding. You have to have funding. So the talk this afternoon for us at ATP Bio is hibernation. We work on hibernation. They're adorable. They'll curl up and they get cold, but it's actually about space. People have money for space, and it's actually organ preservation. Our work is what it is. I've been continuously funded grotesquely highly, even by places like the NSF and the NIH in the olden days, by making my work practical. Yes, I only work on frozen frogs, but don't you want to be able to freeze humans and have them come back? They do. I didn't do it. Eventually, the NIH caught on. They actually wrote me a letter saying, Ken, you're not actually going to freeze and revive human organs, are you? And I said, no, you caught me. But that was 11 years too late, man. So I think it's a sense of identity, but you can't be identified as a cryobiologist only. If you're going to start a company, you have cryo things. John Boust blasts liquid nitrogen down a metal tube and then stabs men in the gonads with it. Apparently, this is good and they make money. So they're not going to hire you as a cryobiologist because you're not going to see the ads. But what you're going to be able to do is look at what you're interested in, widely interested in. You could be interested in plants. There's plant cryobiologists. You could be interested in organs and cells. You could be interested in animals that live in Antarctica. And so I would suggest that the field try to keep cohesive, meetings, everybody working together. Try to get an ATP bio system going where you put together various things. So ATP bio seems to have a center, but it really only has lumps around the center, big, rich lumps. And be sure to explain to regular people what you do and why you do it. I think why you do it. Oh, you work on corals, cryopreservation of corals. What the? Hey, we need cryopreservation of corals because we have no more corals. Oh, yeah. Have some money. That sort of thing. It's not prostitution. It's explaining to people who pay taxes what you do.
Yeah, I think that's a really good summary, and I think really emphasizes the sort of interdisciplinary nature of cryobiology and our need to sort of interact with so many different fields outside of cryobiology, speak so many different languages to promote our field in a constructive way together. So you have any last minute or closing thoughts? Can we have one more minute before we close?
I didn't have any thoughts to start. Did you have a last question? Did you have one last question?
Nicole has one last question. It seems like
Ooh,
she's
and her hand is up. It could be her. I suspected it was John that was going to come without pants, but it could be Nicole.
Okay, closed on. Thank you so much, Ken. Ken's been a bit of a guinea pig for this new Fireside Fellows series, so thank you very much, and thank you to Shannon for moderating it. But if we have 30 seconds, Ken, what is your most memorable thing that happened when you were out in the field collecting samples? I would love to know of any disasters or any crazy things that happened.
I've given invited talks on all 7 continents, and Antarctica is one of the continents. So things happen in Antarctica that don't happen anywhere else. Huge orcas come up to the edge of the ice and knock the ice up, and the penguins go like little bowling pins, and then the orcas just eat them. Other times you go to a penguin colony, you'll be walking around and a leopard seal will come out. Leopard seals are 7, 8 feet long. They're seals with dog faces. They are absolutely terrifying and they can chase you down on the ice. So if you're in an elephant seal colony, like in Ana Nueva, it's fine. They try to chase you and then they just lose the desire to do that and smoke another cigarette. But leopard seals will eat you and kill you. We went up the Amazon on a boat, 1,500 miles, and fished for fish that live in freshwater and saltwater and things, we would take our boat out, and then if the motor went, we just go right down the Amazon. Little boys were beside us with paddles, paddling their boats, and we had to be rescued by Air Sea Rescue. So we do dumb things, and I'm still alive. And field work can be fun, but it's tiring, and you have to be in good shape, and you have to then bring your samples back and do science. It used to be easier in the olden days. We grab up a fish and do something weird with it. Nowadays, you have to do top quality lab science on animals that you've wrestled to the ground on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Ken. We really enjoyed speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time. Thank you to all of you who stayed in to listen as well. And yes, hopefully we'll see you next time for our next fireside chat.
Yay. And at ATP Bio, maybe later today.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, kids. Have a good day. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go.